What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. I'm just gonna say, this is the best Raw Rumble pay-per-view ever. Why? There was a legendary ladder match, exciting opener, a very good world title match, and best of all, a chaotic, fun, entertaining Raw Rumble match. It's like they knew the Monday Night War was over and wanted to go out with a bang. Like, the late Attitude Era seriously had some of the best pay-per-views, no doubt about it. This one in particular is always exciting to go back and watch. Me personally, I haven't watched it in about 7 years, so I'm glad you guys chose it. Enough talk, let's quickly get into it. Raw Rumble 2001 was held in the New Orleans Arena, currently the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans, Louisiana, on January 21st, 2001. 17,137 were in attendance to witness Drew Carey's legendary performance, and the buy rate for the events was 625,000, which was actually second only to the 99 Raw Rumble. So they were still drawing. At this point in time, to give you an idea of how things were, WCW was going to undergo some sort of reboot and return in a couple of months. They're planning on doing that. Eric Bischoff was going to purchase the company, but we all know what happened, right? ECW just had their final pay-per-view the week beforehand, and they ended up closing down a couple of days afterwards. And the WWF, the ratings were falling due to the move to TNN, so yeah. Anyways, the first match was for the WWF Tag Team Championships. Edge and Christian defend the gold against the very over Dudleys. At this point, the Dudleys had suffered a concussion from a double concerto from ENC on Raw, so the ball was in the champions' court. Devon and Bubba were very impatient, so brought the fight instantly. Edge and Christian feel it's not their night and try walking to the back, but the challengers had too much intensity to allow that to happen. The champs never really got into it in the early going, and We Want Table chants were loud and clear the arena. Bubba Ray was very aggressive, but was still feeling the effects of Monday. There was a bunch of near falls coming from the challengers, and it took a while for Edge and Christian to get some kind of sustainable offense. Once they did, from a shot to the concussed head, they were dominant. The tactic was simple yet effective. They're delivering shots to the head. Bubba Ray was getting frustrated with every shot, realizing that's all they had to do. The champions, it was easier for them. All they had to do was drop the guys on their head. Christian and Edge were tagging in and out. They were very fresh, and Devon had yet to find an opening. He was valiant, though, and took all the punishment, kicked out, and Bubba, he was just chomping at the bit to just run in there and whoop ass. There was a little scare for Bubba when they tried the pile driver, but Devon managed to fight through and connect with a clothesline. Fans were rallying for him to reach Bubba and make the tag, and he did, but the ref didn't notice. Much to the chagrin of JR, who's saying that the ref is pretty inconsistent, because earlier in the match, Christian tagged in Edge, yet the ref didn't notice but allowed it to happen. The idiots didn't take the advantage as they hoped to, and there was the legal tag. Bubba had a hell of a lot of momentum delivering the Bubba Bomb, the Waza, and it was time for the tables. There was a lot of intensity at this point. Edge tries cheating but nearly loses the gold. 3D isn't to be because Edge hits the spear, but Bubba kicks out. The champs tried mocking the Dudleys, but they hurt nobody but themselves, and the Dudleys hit the 3D. 1, 2, 3. Man, that was fun. Just hearing me talk about the match, it flew by pretty quickly. It was easy to watch. Once Bubba was tagged in, the match kicked up 2 gears, not 1. Once Bubba was in, he quickened the pace. It was a fast opener. The Dudleys had the concussion, yet still managed to capture the gold, which was good to see. Edge and Christian, it just wasn't their night, no matter what they did. That's what it seemed like to me. Like, even if they kicked out of the 3D, the Dudleys were going to win regardless. Fun opener, fun competitors, everything was good. Crowd was just electric, and they really added to this match. In the back, Triple H warned his wife, Stephanie, to not get involved in any physical altercation with Trish Stratus because he wants to be the WWF champion. He didn't want any outside interference. Drew Carey then paid a visit, he's chatting with the Helmsleys, when Stephanie got an idea. Apparently, Trish Stratus was a big fan of Drew's, and so Stephanie's going to get them to meet. In other places, the APA were talking about the Rumble and showing off their numbers when Crash comes in and arrogantly warns both men, stating that if they come in his way, he'll throw them over the top rope. I don't think that happens at all. The next match was for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. Chris Benoit defends the gold in a ladder match against Chris Jericho. This feud was on and off for most of 2000. They traded victories in hellacious single bouts, and it's come down to this. If you didn't know, this is the match that most see as their very best. Well, the guys had a hell of a year, especially Jericho. He was arguably top 5 most over in the entire company. Benoit, on the other hand, was the workhorse of 2000. Nearly every pay-per-view featured himself in a classic, and everyone looked good in there with him. Yeah, it was him and Triple H. Those were the best in-ring workers of 2000 for sure for the WWF. Right in the beginning, Benoit tried to exploit the injured arm. This was because of an incident on SmackDown when the champion slammed the ladder right onto it. Y2J showed some intensity, but this moment in particular hurt him. The arm wasn't doing him any favors, and Benoit brings in the ladder. Jericho tries going for another backslide, but the champion was intelligent, and he took the time to study his opponents and so sends him shoulder first into the steps. First spot of the match saw Y2J drop Chris on his head. The challenger tried utilizing the ladder as a weapon, and at this point it was working. That is until he was catapulted right into it. Benoit then goes for the tope, but runs right into a damn chair shot. That spot is one of the first things I think of when this match is mentioned. The fact that Benoit goes through the ropes, he goes for the suicide dive, and Jericho comes in with the chair, man, it's just brutal to watch. Then Jericho tried dropping the ladder right onto him, but you guessed it, he hurt himself. From here he suffered. Benoit's launching him into the ladder, launching the ladder into him, and eventually he recovers and stuck Benoit's leg into the ladder before pushing himself, the ladder, and Benoit to the mat. It really looked bad because, well, his leg could have gotten hurt. You could see it for yourself. Back and forth action. Benoit runs into the ladder. Jericho uppercuts him with the ladder. A missile dropkick using the ladder. Y2J realizes it's his time to retrieve the belt, but Benoit grabs him and tosses him unceremoniously right over the top rope without any regard for his well-being. He tries climbing but ends up being flipped over his head when Jericho locks the walls on top of the damn ladder. What the hell is going on? You know, that spot, I really love that spot. It reminds me of SmackDown, Just Bring It. Just as Chris touches the belts, Benoit pushes him over the ladder. It was just exciting stuff all around. Both men recover and Jericho once again climbs up but realizes Benoit is annoying and so tries to do something about it. But this was a bad idea because Benoit locked in the crossface, and just like Jericho explained, he can incapacitate Jericho then climb up. He wasn't satisfied with this and so launched Y2J in the post. He then gets a flapjack into the ropes, and for some odd reason, Jericho sets up the ladder in the corner and then it becomes apparent. He was looking for the suplex, but it wasn't to be, and instead Benoit goes for the headbutt, which was unsuccessful in itself. Y2J climbs up with the Wolverine flips over the ladder. Both men were resilient, never giving up. He climbs up the ladder, but Chris brings in the chair. He pushes him away, but only hurts himself because Y2J pushes the damn ladder, and Benoit's down. Jericho climbs the rungs of the ladder, but struggles due to the arm, but in the end, manages to retrieve the belt to become the new champion. Man, that was grueling to watch, and it was definitely grueling for both men. I don't need to say it, but they showed a hell of a lot of heart. Made the Intercontinental title seem like the most valuable thing in the world. They were basically fighting for literal gold. That's what they made it seem like. I can't say anything bad about this. The only thing I could say is that it's a shame that it's not mentioned as some of the very best ladder matches, because it's arguably one of, if not the best. Depends on your opinion once again. For me, it has to be top 5. That's how good it is, and if you've never watched it, I suggest you go ahead and watch it. I haven't watched it in a long time, and even I was amazed. The amount of ridiculous bumps these guys took in a short time, and they took a different approach compared to other matches. Well, another thing that sticks to me is the fact that they used only one ladder for this match. Like I said, this match, it's a strong contender for 2001 WWF, their match of the year. That's what I think. I think it's definitely in the top 5 matches of the year for 2001. In the back, Drew Carey's chatting with Trish Stratus, who gives him the memo, you know, I'm with somebody. That being Vince. Then he comes in and Drew asks him for advice on how to promote his improv pay-per-view when the boss asks him, you know what, I got a good idea for you. You should participate in the Rumble to get some exposure. Carey's unsure of whether or not to go through with it because, well, he was going to be in the Rumble. Think about it. He's going to get his ass beat. But in the end, he ends up accepting. Chyna's all angry and ready to face Ivory, but Billy Gunn's all worried about her health because if you didn't know, well, she got a pile driver from the RTC. She was out for a couple of weeks. She was all angry and suggested he worry about the Rumble and walked away. Meanwhile, Chris Jericho called Benoit one of the toughest bastards he's ever faced, but tonight he's proven him wrong. So yeah, when you think about it from that time frame, it was one hell of a match. Even in 2021 standards, it's one hell of a match. The next match was for the WWF Women's Championship. Ivory of the RTC defends the title against Chyna. The main story about this one was about Chyna's neck. She had taken a spike pile driver, and there was doubt over whether or not she was going to return. The Right to Censor were responsible for this, and Ivory in particular was mocking her in a parody of that JR interview. Ivory was so confident that Chyna wasn't going to appear that she put up her title on the line in a match against Chyna at the Rumble. Eventually, she returned and so the match was on. Right out of the gate, Ivory gets her ass beat. There was no stopping Chyna's momentum. She was straight up bullying the champ and there was nothing she can do about it, so she tried running away. The challenger had to grab her in press slam position and toss her to the ringside area. Then Steven got some, he got involved and got his ass beat. And then Chyna attempted the handspring and ends up collapsing to the mat. The commentary team didn't know what's up. And then Ivory swoops in for the victory. They had the silent voices and tried to sell it as a legit injury because Jerry Lawler entered the ring. Now, if you didn't know, the last time the King entered the ring was over the Edge 99. The crowd didn't know what's up, and the spot itself looked awkward. See? But yeah, Chyna's neck got the best of her in storyline, and the match itself looked like a squash, and you can't really rate these. It's more of a story. Some people didn't like the fact that Chyna's neck, they tried to sell it as this legit injury. They thought it was disrespectful because the Owen Hart thing occurred like about a year and a half ago. It's not the fact that she got injured, it's the fact that the King entered the ring, and they tried to make it seem like some career-ending injury. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's what I saw. I'm making this video. I'm trying to look at other people's opinions, and that's what they thought. What do you guys think? Do you think it was disrespectful? Do you think it was wrong of them to have the commentary team sell it as a legit injury? Me personally, I could see why people got angry because, well, it kind of got people scared. They're thinking, oh no, another incident. When Owen Hart, that stuff happened literally 2 years earlier. It gave everybody a bad flashback to that. Once again, I gotta remind you, there's injury angles in the past Maybe they should have went about it in a different way and it wouldn't have received as much backlash as it did. That's what I think. Backstage, Stephanie and Trish got into a confrontation, and Drew Carey got his ring gear. Kane then walks in and he calls him a guy wearing a goofy mask, which I found funny. Yeah, this was all for the Improv pay-per-view.
Oh, he's the goofy guy in the mask.
In other places, Vince McMahon gave Lowdown the news. Apparently, they aren't in a Royal Rumble. Tiger Ali Singh understood but wanted to know what great wrestler is replacing him. McMahon simply responded with Drew Carey, and he had no idea who Drew Carey was. You know, Lowdown are probably the most forgettable faction of the Attitude Era. I can't name a single match they had nor feud. I just remember them roaming around backstage in these segments and doing nothing. The next match was for the WWF Championship. Kurt Angle defends the title against Triple H. Now, the match itself had a story that didn't exactly relate to the stars in the ring. That being the whole Vince, Trish, Stephanie thing. Long story short, Trish was in Kurt's corner. Vince thought it wasn't such a good idea, and before he knew it, he was actually in a relationship with her. Stephanie was jello, but what was she gonna do about it? Her dad owns the whole damn company. Anyways, I think it's really unfortunate that these two never had a singles match in the years to follow. I really think they would have tore the house down, being in 2005 or 2008. Once Angle lost his hair, they didn't face off, not even once. They did face off at WrestleMania 34, but a singles match, like, it's a damn shame that it never happened. So like I said, the story was Stephanie versus Trish Stratus outside the ring, and Kurt versus Triple H inside the ring. Bell rings and they engage in a collar and elbow tie-up. They go for each other's arm. There was a nice exchange there. Some early match stuff, you know, the feeling out process. Angle won the first encounter. The fans chanted, "You suck." And at this point, he was 1.5 steps ahead of the game. He had a hat trick of suplexes, and Triple H goes out for a breather. He gets impatient and decides to engage in a fight on the outside. That's his wrongdoing because Triple H is a brawler. He's basically asking for it. Once in the ring, the game rips on that knee. You know, the leg was hurting the champ, but he fought through the pain to send Hunter right to the outside. He wasn't really on defense, you know, taking his time. He didn't do that kind of stuff. And this kind of hurt him because it gave Triple H yet another chance to go after the knee. Then Stephanie got the ref distracted, and so he blasted the already isolated knee with a steel chair. Angle was really suffering. Nothing was really working for him. He was trying to fight back, but Triple H had done a number on that knee, and the challenger was really living up to the nickname that was given to him, you know, student of the game. At one point, Trish had to get involved, and this led to a fight between herself and Stephanie. Then Mr. McMahon comes walking down and barely puts a stop. He had to drag Trish out of there, and even that wasn't enough. And this mess really benefited Kurt Angle because it gave him enough time to rest that already injured knee. He caught Triple H with an inside cradle, but it wasn't enough, and he ran into a clothesline, and it was back to work. Angle pushes him into the turnbuckle, and it's a slugfest. He finally finds a burst of momentum. He hit the atomic drop, a German suplex, and a Russian leg sweep. Then he goes up top for the moonsault. Ref barely notices a low blow. Look at him. And Triple H goes for a modified Razor's Edge, and no, it wasn't enough. The game couldn't believe this, so he went for the cover a few times afterwards. There was this moment, and Angle then goes for the moonsault, and for like the second time out of 100 attempts, it actually worked. To make matters worse, Earl Hebner got knocked down. The action continues inside, and Angle hits a top rope arm drag, but no one's there to count. He tries to get him back into the ring, but Triple H ruins everything. He uses the time, you know, the ref's down, to bring the title belt into the ring, but he walks into a belly-to-belly. Angle grabs it, but walks straight into the pedigree. The ref is still down, and all of a sudden, the crowd's deafening. Why? Because Stone Cold is here. He raised hell, whooped Triple H's ass, and blasted him with the title before tossing Earl Hebner into the ring. Austin chants intensify, and realizing that's not enough, hits the stunner on Triple H. Angle swoops in for the cover. 1, 2, 3. And it's over. Moral of the story, don't piss off a rattlesnake. Yeah, it was a pretty good match. I thought the other story did drag it down though, but nonetheless, good enough for me. And yes, Angle as champion was overshadowed by other stuff, but the action was good. The whole Triple H and Austin thing made sense because Hunter did the exact same thing to Austin 3 weeks earlier. I could see why people say the other story overshadows the action itself. It does. It definitely does. Had it been a one-on-one, Stephanie and Trish are barred from ringside, I think this could have been a very good match. A classic, perhaps. Yeah, it kind of drags it down in my eyes. What do you guys think? Did the Stephanie and Trish thing drag this match down or what? That's what I personally feel. But it was good. In the back, The Rock discussed the Royal Rumble. He made fun of Kane and The Undertaker. He said that it could come down to himself and Perry Saturn, maybe himself and Austin, but the results will still be the same. The Rock will whoop ass all over the Big Easy. He's gonna go on to WrestleMania, and if you smell what The Rock was cooking. And the main event, the 30-man Royal Rumble match, from Bull Buchanan all the way to Stone Cold Steve Austin. Every notable star was in this, barring the obvious ones. those being the ones that competed earlier on. The favorites in kayfabe were Rikishi, he was number 30 and he was a bad man. Kane, he's the big red monster. The Undertaker, or the ring is his yard. The Rock, he's the gray one. He's already won the damn thing last year. And of course, there was Stone Cold Steve Austin. Does anything need to be said about him? He's a 2-time winner. He's already proven himself. You guys know the rules. 2 men enter at 1 and 2, fight, and then every 2 minutes a wrestler enters. Number 1 ended up being Jeff Hardy, and number 2 is the Big Bull Buchanan. Quick sequences there. Hardy with a Hurricanrana, Bull with a clothesline. It was the clashes of wrestling styles. Jeff struggles, but luckily his brother entered at number 3. They double-teamed Bull and he was out. They had a mini-match themselves, back body drop from Matt, jawbreaker of sorts from Jeff. They were going at it in an easy way, I guess. Once it was time for the countdown, they became a team again, and number 3 was Farouk. He got some shots in, but the Hardys were a unit. They were back to fighting again, and it was much more aggressive compared to earlier. Both men were knocked down, and out came number 4, Drew Carey. He was happy to be out there, but preferred to observe from the outside. The Hardys are going at it when he comes in, and both brothers ended up getting eliminated. Not by Drew, of course, but by themselves. He was out here posing, messing around when number 5 entered, and it was Kane.
Oh, he's the goofy guy in the mask.
The comedian was begging to get eliminated, but nobody gave a damn. He was trying to be all friendly with Kane. Hell, even offered some money, but the big red monster opted for a chokeslam. Luckily, Raven made the save for him, and he just hops out. All happy that the Royal Rumble experience was over, and this is what got him into the Hall of Fame in 2011, which I find quite hilarious. Raven ends up making the Rumble a little hardcore, which was essentially unseen beforehand at this point. Then Al Snow runs there to try and get a piece of Raven, and he was actually the next contestant, I should know. He was impatient and didn't wait for his entrance to play. He utilized the weapons at his disposal. There was even a bowling ball under the ring. Kane was a monster during this part of the match. They blasted him with trash cans, but it wasn't enough to knock him down. And then Perry Saturn enters, and for some reason, he immediately drags Kane to the outside and goes after the leg. They're going after Kane, but were too worried about each other to actually make an effort to eliminate him. Next up, Steve Blackman. Number 11 was Grandmaster Sexay, and eventually Kane has enough and goes on a path of destruction. Grandmaster's out, Steve Blackman almost gets eliminated. Oh, he's out now. Al Snow, Raven, all out, and out came the Honky Tonk Man. Before he can wrestle, he had some business to take care of, that being to perform his hit song, He's a Honky Tonk Man. Kane had enough and decides to smash the guitar right onto his head. He shakes his head in disbelief before tossing the former IC champion out. So who's next? Lucky number 13 was The Rock. Yup, the gray one with the entire crowd on his side enters the match. Right out of the gate, he delivers a flurry of punches, a clothesline. The crowd was going crazy, but it wasn't enough for an elimination. Rocky chants intensify as Kane's laying the smacking down on the gray one. He struggles to get back on track, and out came number 14, the Good Father. Rock whoops his ass and sends him to the back easily, and that whole Kane thing continued from here on. He's wearing down the People's Champion. Once again, he's got some fight in him, but Kane was a totally different monster on this night. Poor Taz runs in, Kane grabs him like a baby and literally punches him out of the match. Look at that, that's all. That's how hard he felt compared to 2000. And Kane's back at work. Look at that sign. Rock finds an opening and nearly eliminates him, but an eye gouge pushes him away. Back and forth action before Rock hits a Samoan drop. Both men are down, and out comes Bradshaw. He was uber aggressive. You guys know how he fights. He delivers this crazy looking clothesline from hell on Rock. He was actually in control for a moment. That is until he walked into a clothesline, and once again, Kane was on offense. Albert's next. There was a scare on both sides. Rock was almost eliminated, and Bradshaw on the other side was in danger. Another aggressive wrestler in Hardcore Holly enters. Bradshaw takes an Albert bomb. Rock's double teamed but finds a way to hold on. Kane takes a bicycle kick from Albert. A bunch of stuff is going on. It's hard to keep track. At one point, Rock nearly eliminates Kane. The fans thought he did, but it wasn't to be. And next up, K-Quick enters. Slowly, the ring was filling with talent. There was this cool moment, double impact. Val Venus enters. The action wasn't really noteworthy here. William Regal runs in, gets booed. There was one where JR was sure that Val Venus had the Rock eliminated, but Bradshaw ruined everything and opted to throw out Val instead. Test enters at number 22. He's got a hell of a lot of momentum by his side, and it showed because William Regal was thrown out by him. He whooped his ex-partner's ass in the corner, and then things picked up in a big way when number 23 entered. It was the Big Show. He runs into the ring, tosses both Test and K-Quick out before chokeslamming everybody in sight. JR shouting, and when it was The Rock's turn, he countered and ended up clotheslining Big Show right out. Now, just to mention, Big Show was sent down to OVW in August to lose weight, so he was missed by the looks of it. Once the fans saw him, they cheered, and he was never back in developmental from here on. He was always on the main roster. He got angry at the elimination and decides to grab Rock and chokeslam him through the announce table as Crash Holly enters the match. And in the ring, all the guys were trying to jump Kane and get rid of him, but unfortunately, The Undertaker entered and ruined everything. The brothers ended up clearing house, and they were the only two men in the ring. And heading to the pay-per-view, there was this belief, there's this assumption that both guys were on the same page, and that theory was going to be put to the test. So just as they're looking to fight each other, poor Scotty 2 Hotty was the next man to enter, and he got his ass beat. They absolutely obliterated him and threw him out. JR couldn't believe both men were on the same page because this meant the guys weren't safe. And meanwhile, The Rock was slowly recovering. The countdown was back on, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And out came Stone Cold Steve Austin. The fans went crazy. And just looking at this visual, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Like, why'd they have to turn him heel? Unfortunately, before he can enter, Triple H runs in and assaults him. He's bleeding like a stuck pig. The Rock re-enters the match but gets his ass beat, but help was on the way because the one Billy Gunn was number 28. There was some hope for Rock, but Taker catches him with that flying DDT. And after number 29, it was a returning Haku, Ming. He hasn't been seen in the WWF in about 7 years. It was a much welcome surprise entry. The brothers couldn't really stop him, and he was just a one-man wrecking crew for that moment. What I find funny about this return was the fact that Ming was the WCW Hardcore Champion just a week earlier. Anyways, number 30 was Rikishi. He took the time to go after Austin, but this wouldn't help him at all. It was clear that Austin had a lot left in the tank. He eliminates Haku. Rikishi takes a choke slam, but he would quickly bounce back by eliminating The Undertaker. Damn, I don't remember that at all. Rikishi brawls with The Rock, fails to hit the banzai drop, and he's out. So 4 men remained. The one Billy Gunn, Kane, Stone Cold, and The Rock. Gunn and Austin had a nice little exchange that ended up with the one being the one out, and then there was this moment. You could feel the electricity. Both men were craving this moment. Back and forth action, right hands. It was a smackdown. It was a fight. Rock won that part of the exchange, but ends up losing the finisher part. King goes after Stone Cold, but he's still got some fight in him. Rock returns and ends up hitting the Rock bottom. Kane tries to get a piece of him, but gets thrown through the ropes. And this would come back to bite the Rock because Kane re-entered and eliminated him. At this point in the match, JR lost his voice. The crowd was loud, but they were quickly silenced because Kane hit the choke slam on Steve Austin. The Texas Rattlesnake then desperately hit the low blow to put a stop to Kane's dominance, and then the Big Red Monster, once he recovered, he brought in a chair. Austin took notice and did his best to knock down the monster, and he did just that with a stunner, but despite this, Kane was still up. So Austin grabbed the chair and whacked him 3 times before clotheslining him out of the match to win the Royal Rumble. Damn. The crowd was going crazy, and the damn network, man, why'd they have to dub the Disturbed song? It was one hell of a match. I really loved Kane's performance. He eliminated 11 men, which was the record until Roman broke it, and he was the monster. I love the way he was booked here. Still the best performance in the Rumble for me, other than the obvious, that being Benoit in 04. Austin was the first and only man to win 3 Rumbles, and only time will tell if that record will be broken. There's got to be someone bigger than him, but I doubt it'll ever happen. Who knows? Yes, tremendous Rumble match. It's in my top 5 in general. It's up there with 92 and 07. The whole event, though, has to be the best, right? The only one I can think of that could give it a run for its money is 07, I believe. One match was bad, and I barely consider it to be a match. It was more of a story. My favorite match was the Rumble. The ladder match was objectively better, though. Without a doubt on that one. Benoit and Jericho really took the ladder match to another level. They told such a tremendous story with one ladder. I just like Rumble matches, but the ladder thing, I can admit, it blew the main event right out of the water. It's up there with the best ladder matches, and it's understood why it's not celebrated. Another thing I really liked about the event was the commentary. It was really enjoyable, but you already know that, right? Yeah, that's Royal Rumble 2001. The next pay-per-view I'll cover, hopefully, is New Year's Revolution 05. After that, I think I'm going to go with Royal Rumble 02. I'm still thinking of what Rumble to go with afterwards because, well, I want to do a bunch of these if I got the chance. What'd you guys think of this Royal Rumble? Please comment down below. And that's it for this video. Make sure you hit a Walls of Jericho on the like button and perhaps the choke slam on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.